everybody. I'm Ashley Rodón, wife of Yankees pitcher Carlos Rodón and the president of the Carlos Rodón Foundation.
Family has always been important to Ashley.
I always wanted to be a mom. I had a great mom. Like, my aunt was like another mom to me. Family is a huge part of my life. I think it's kind of been in my DNA of like wanting to become a parent. And then, obviously going through what we went through, I think it made me want to be a parent even more, because I was like, man, like maybe this isn't going to happen for me. And maybe this isn't our reality and it doesn't look the way that it looked. And so I think I value probably being a mom more than I ever even would have before, at the end of all of this.
When Ashley and Carlos got married, they decided to start trying right away.
So we got married, and obviously we were in a financial position that was different than young adults our age. So I was like, well, why would we wait to have a family, right? I decided, I was like, I'll just stop working and we'll focus on starting a family and I'll be a mom. And I was totally excited for that. I know some people are like, oh, I want more. At that time in my life, I really didn't. I was like, I want to have a family. I want to be with you every step of the way. And so we start trying, like right after we got married, we get pregnant. I was so sick and everyone kept telling me, this is a sign of a healthy baby. Excited, and are you excited to figure out the gender? Like all of these things. And so I was so hyped to be a parent, and Carlos was so terrified. And so I was trying to make it fun for him. I was like, how do I make him love this? Because I think any man in the very beginning is like, this is absolutely terrifying. And there's no prep work for like a man. Like the baby's just here. Like as a woman, I feel like you kind of go through these changes, your body changes, you're nauseated, you're kind of fighting and becoming, you're learning this like fight or flight anyway, as you grow this human. And so then we go in for the ultrasound, and my doctor goes over my belly, and she was like, I'm having trouble finding the heartbeat. And I like saw the baby, and I was like, that baby does not look like the size of the baby that I should have. And so I just started breaking down. Like I knew something was wrong. I just had another friend miscarry the week before. So I think I was already terrified of that. And like, I saw it becoming a reality, and Carlos kind of just like put his hand on my chest and was like, hey, can you give her a second? So, they end up taking my blood. She's like, hey, let's try to figure out what's going on. They call me back like an hour later, and they're like, hey, your HCG levels are through the roof. Like we think something might be like, you may have twins that we can't see the other one. They're just underdeveloped. So we end up going back in there. No twins. So it was like an extreme roller coaster of emotions for us. Ended up having a DNC. Found out it was a little boy. And so I think after that, it was kind of a lot of trauma. But I was like, okay, I'm a super driven person, and I'm not going to just lay down. So I was like, let's go to every single doctor we can get into. Let's figure out what's going on. And so I had went to a holistic doctor. She put me on all these medications. She did all these tests. I went to Brian Kaplan. He's a fertility doctor in Chicago. He's like, you can do IUIs. He's like, but if you don't want to go through what you're going through right now, more than likely it's going to be IVF. Like that's your answer. I guess that was after our second miscarriage, but I had another miscarriage in between them. But then 2 weeks before we were supposed to start IVF, Willow was born, or Willow was conceived. And then, we ended up having her, and everything worked out. But I think that whole journey really was an eye-opening experience for us that I just don't think we ever expected it. I was so young. And so I think that kind of just started the journey, to the Willow Grant, to what we're doing. And it's, as much as it was tough, and I know a lot of people have kind of been there, it ended up working out.
Ashley and Carlos experienced 2 pregnancy losses before they had their baby, Willow.
So with our first child, I was super excited. It kind of, I think, was just like what you imagine the first time you get pregnant when you're trying and you're excited. And I was like, yay, this, like, I give him like a little onesie. It's like Dad's Dude or something at that time. I was just so pumped. Then we miscarry. I get pregnant again. I was terrified, but I got pregnant on Mother's Day. And so to me, I'm very faith-based with our family and everything. And it felt, I'd prayed so much, and I felt kind of like it was like a nod of like, you're going to get your rainbow baby on Mother's Day. Like you're going to have a great story to help other people. And, it's not in vain. And then so to lose that baby too, just really felt like a gut punch.
Fortunately, she had support from friends who made a huge impact along the way.
So I had a best friend, Nicole Walker and Lacey Jones, and they kind of all were on a team, the Chicago White Sox. This was back in the day. And so I think like those women were super important to me because my mom had never been through a miscarriage. My parents were super supportive. Like they flew out for my DNC, like pretty much just cried with me for hours and hours. Kind of just held me while I was down. Like there's nothing anyone could do. And that was the kicker, right? There's nothing you could do to make it better. Uh, but I had people just kind of literally felt like a crutch on both sides. They were just kind of carrying me through life, supporting me, and I felt like they understood, specifically my friends, because they'd been there. And I think that's kind of, again, I find pivotal moments in my life that kind of sprouted the Willow like grant and all these things in the foundation. And it's those moments I think where I was like, I want to be this for other people because I have so many people in my life doing it for me too. Now we have 3 and they are all perfect. Silo's 1.5 now. So he's at that like starting to talk. It's like first word is literally he just walks around going baseball. Oh, it's so cute. I love it so much. I love it.
Ashley and Carlos started the Willow Grant to offer support by providing financial assistance and resources to help people afford IVF.
It had been in the works since 2021. So I worked with a company called the Chicago Coalition for Family Building, a nonprofit, and they give the IVF grants to couples in Chicago who are looking to start their family. And so we did like a little benefit for them. We made Nike made us hats that had like the 1 in 8, which now is 1 in 6, sadly. But we sold those hats and gave the proceeds to them. And I always said to Carlos, like, man, this is like what I would love for us to do. And he agreed. He was like, this is very cool. Like, just because our kid, at that time it was Willow, and Willow it was Carlos's entire world. He always talks about he was going through Tommy John at that point, and so he always talks about Willow's kind of like his saving grace. Like it was a tough time in his career, and she was like the light at, she was just perfect timing. When I worked with that nonprofit, we were like, how could we do this ourselves? And again, we weren't necessarily in a financial position to do it, but that was probably where the topic began. And then he gets blessed to sign with the New York Yankees, which obviously is a huge platform. Like not only the contract, you're in a position that is so enormous compared to any other market, in my opinion. You have maybe LA, but we were like, okay, it's like this is the moment. Like we're in a position financially, we're obviously in a position publicly to kind of take a stand for something we care about, and that is really where the Willow Grant kind of was born.
The Willow Grant through the Carlos Rodón Foundation has grown more than the couple expected.
It's like finding ways to get the money to people. It's finding the right clinics, the right doctors. I'm able to give a lot of the grants through the Nest Egg Foundation, which is very similar to the Chicago Coalition for Family Building. So they have their own application process. They've been working and doing their foundation since for the last, I think I want to say it's 11 years. So they have a really good established background. That how they give out their grants. I feel super comfortable with them. I'm actually on their board as well, so it makes it even better because I get to be kind of inside a lot of those conversations. That was probably the first step. Then we kind of decided we wanted to host a gala, and so there was all of these amazing things that have kind of taken shape. Our gala was actually able this year to raise $160,000, so we're going to be able to a lot of grants in this coming year. So we're super excited about that. I'm, been over the moon. People have been so supportive. I just, think it's one of those things that some people are shy to talk about and I'm not. So it works out. It just works out for all around.
You can apply for a Nest Egg or Willow Grant at nesteggfoundation.org or at rodonfoundation.org.
The Nest Egg as a whole also gives out numerous grants to, surrogacy, things, other areas. So I just encourage everyone to go fill out that application. I'm also working with Columbia Fertility for anyone who goes to that office. They have a at-cost clinic. It's one of the only ones on the Northeast. And so we are currently working with them to try to get a bunch of grants out through that office, and hopefully just keep growing. That's the goal as the years go on, is finding clinics where there's a need. Normally it's just email interaction at first. Right now I just gave an extension to one of the families. They're still, as much as these, it's $12,500. It's still not enough to cover like some of the medications. So they were just in a position. She was like, hey, we definitely want to use the grant. She's like, we're just saving a little bit of money for the medications. And so we gave them an extension. So hopefully over the next few years, as we get more, babies born and families involved, is like we can do a day at the field and everybody can come hang out in the street or do a first pitch. And like, that's my hope, right? Like I want to be able to have a relationship, with the grant recipients, because that's like, I want to show them, love and kindness, and like we're doing this not because like it's charity work, but it's like I think they deserve it. Like I want them to have families, because like having kids like made me a better person. I'm like, I think it's the best thing ever, and I'm just everybody should get to experience it. So I want to have those relationships long term with all of the recipients.
On top of giving these grants, Ashley and Carlos are using their platform to help reduce stigma related to infertility.
So many people have been affected by infertility, like more than we ever even realized. I remember telling my grandma about it. And this was probably the most influential moment that I can remember, like for me, is that I was telling my grandma about it. And my grandma was like, oh, I had a miscarriage. And my dad was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, I miscarried one of your siblings. And my dad had no clue. His brothers had no clue. It just was something they never spoke about. And so for me, I think it's just people finally being like, I'm so glad you're talking about this. Like, I'm so glad you're starting to like break a stigma around like the shame of infertility. And I think that's a consistent rhetoric I hear over and over from people when I tell them what we're doing. It's just like, oh, that's so amazing. Like, I had a miscarriage, or that's so amazing. My sister, my aunt, my cousin, like I always say, if you were to ask a room of people, like who's been touched by infertility, like I truly believe not a single person would keep their hand down, because it's just so real right now.
In Ashley's experience, communication and support are keys for anyone experiencing loss.
So I think just being there for each other. Carlos always said, what can I do for you? I think that was the consistent like line for him in every moment, like every miscarriage, like both miscarriages. The second one, he had gotten hit in the head by a line drive that day, and he ended up in the ER. And then I miscarried, so we went back to the ER. And so we were in a hotel. I'm like miscarrying this baby. We're at a hotel. We're not even at home. And so I'm just sitting in the bath. I'm like letting the water hit my feet. And he just sat down next to me where I was laying and was like, what can I do for you? And I looked at him and I said, honestly, there's nothing you can do for me. Like, you can sit here, but there's nothing you can do for me. But I think it's just that continual open conversation of like, what can I do for you? And it goes both ways, right? Because some men really do take it hard. Like, I have talked to husbands who have a very hard time with like their wife's pregnancy loss. And it's like watching their wife essentially break into a million pieces. And it's like, hey, if you need to go to therapy, go to therapy. If you need to like find a support group, find a support group. We're meant and we're built for community. I do believe that. I think biologically we crave community. And so I think when you're in those positions, isolation is default, but we crave the help and support of other people.
Carlos Rodón Foundation and the Willow Grant is allowing the couple to give hope to those who are suffering.
I think that's one of the things that Carlos and I probably love is reading through the stories, because you feel the pain, but you also feel such hope. And you also know that you have an opportunity to hand someone a chance and just like to give them that little bit of hope to have a family. Because IVF isn't always going to work. And we know that, right? But I think everyone, deserves a chance to try, to like go to sleep at night and be like, I did everything I could.
I want to thank Ashley and Carlos for giving back to the community, and I want to thank Ashley for sharing her story with us today. If you want to connect with us, you can do so on Instagram at This Is Infertility Podcast. If you want to follow Progyny, you can do that at Progyny Inc. This Is Infertility is brought to you by Progyny. Please remember, this podcast is not intended to substitute for the personalized expert advice of your physician. I'm Dan Bulger, and this is Infertility.